10:25 a.m. Central Time, Immigration and Customs Enforcement were carrying out lawful operations here in Minneapolis. Because of the adverse weather that Minneapolis has seen in recent snow, one of the vehicles became stuck and ensnared in the snow. Law enforcement were attempting to push out this vehicle, and when a mob of agitators that were harassing them all day began blocking them in, shouting at them, and impeding law enforcement operations. ICE officers and agents approached the vehicle of the individual in question, who was blocking the officers in with her vehicle, and she had been stalking and impeding their work all throughout the day. ICE agents repeatedly ordered her to get out of the car and to stop obstructing law enforcement, but she refused to obey their commands. She then proceeded to weaponize her vehicle, and she attempted to run a law enforcement officer over. This appears as an attempt to kill or to cause bodily harm to agents, an act of domestic terrorism.
And in this case, quite literally killing people. So they are already trying to spin this as an action of self-defense. Having seen the video of myself, I want to tell everybody directly, that is bullshit. This was an agent recklessly using power that resulted in somebody dying, getting killed. As soon as it happened and we learned of the incident, we had several priorities. The first, of course, was to get the victim to the hospital and to get care as soon as possible.
All right, you have now heard both sides. Republicans say the ICE agent had every right to pull the trigger. Democrats say he had time to step away. But here's the problem. They are not watching the same moment. In just a second, I am going to break this down frame by frame. Not politics, not talking points, just what the video actually shows. And by the end of this, you will be able to decide for yourself who is right and who is dead wrong. Let us slow it down. Here is a critical moment. Two ICE agents are approaching the vehicle. They are walking up on foot toward the Honda Pilot that is stopped in the street. At this point, you see them giving orders, telling the driver to get out of the car. But notice how close they put themselves to the vehicle before any threat occurs. One agent tries to open the door. Another is right beside the car. Now, pause and think about this from a training perspective. Law enforcement tactics generally avoid placing officers directly in the path of a vehicle unless absolutely necessary. This positioning matters because as they are approaching, the driver begins to back up and reposition the car. In that split second, the situation goes from a slow approach to a rapid escalation. So right here, before any shots are fired, ask yourself, could this have been handled without putting officers and a civilian in such a dangerous position? We will slow this next part down so you can see exactly what happens as this unfolds. Now watch closely. Here is the moment the ICE agent steps toward the SUV. I want you to notice something important right away. The officer moves toward the front of the vehicle directly into its path. That is a risky move. Most police training teaches officers not to put themselves in front of a vehicle because a car can become a deadly weapon the second it moves. Police tactics typically emphasize controlling the scene from the side or behind to reduce danger. So ask yourself this, if approaching the vehicle like that puts you in harm's way, why would an officer do it? Why do most police departments avoid standing in front of a stopped car during an encounter? The answer is simple. You never want to be in the path of a potential threat. Now we come to the big question. Did the ICE agent have the right to shoot her? Legally, an officer can use deadly force if they reasonably believe their life or the life of another is in imminent danger. That is the standard in self-defense law and policing use of force policies. Some federal officials are saying that is exactly what happened here. But here is the issue most critics raise. The footage and multiple eyewitness accounts show questions over whether there was an imminent, unavoidable threat when the shots were fired. Minneapolis leaders and human rights groups say the videos do not clearly support the self-defense narrative, and some experts argue the officer's positioning and actions created the dangerous situation. So if the officer felt his life was in danger, the law does allow him to shoot. But at the same time, we have to ask, why did he put himself in that position to begin with? Could he have stepped aside, repositioned, or avoided getting directly in front of the vehicle? Many people, including legal observers and policing experts, say yes, and that matters when we are trying to decide if this was justified self-defense or unnecessary use of force. Now let us talk about the woman in the vehicle, Renee Good, and what was happening from her perspective. In the footage, her SUV is stopped in the street near the ICE operation. Federal officials claim she was blocking traffic and had been impeding officers' movements. They say agents repeatedly told her to get out of the car and move. When law enforcement gives a clear command, the safest thing for a civilian to do is comply, especially in a tense situation like this. Obeying orders can help de-escalate tension and reduce the risk of a violent outcome. However, the context here is complicated. Multiple angles and witness accounts show Good briefly reversing and then attempting to drive away shortly before shots were fired. She had been told to get out, and instead of immediately stepping out of the vehicle, her car moved in the direction of the agents as the encounter escalated. You could argue that if she had clearly exited the car when ordered, this situation may never have reached the point where an officer felt threatened enough to fire. So here's the conclusion. This situation never should have escalated to this point. On one hand, if an officer genuinely believes their life is in immediate danger, the law does allow them to use deadly force. That part matters. But on the other hand, we also have to be honest. Officers should never put themselves in positions that unnecessarily create that danger in the first place. Positioning matters. Decisions made seconds earlier matter. At the same time, the woman in the vehicle made choices that added to the risk. Blocking the street, refusing to exit the vehicle when ordered, those actions escalated an already tense situation. Compliance does not guarantee safety, but it often prevents things from spiraling out of control. This was not a simple case of right versus wrong. It was a chain of decisions on both sides that led to a tragic ending that did not have to happen. Now I want to hear from you. Do you believe this was justified self-defense? Or do you think this could have been avoided? Leave a comment below. Give this video a like, and please subscribe to the channel. It helps support real, unfiltered analysis like this. I will see you in the next one.